Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about how our intimate and sex life has actually improved now as parents.
And just on a personal note, it's kind of funny to be recording this. It's 7:30 in the morning and our baby is taking a nap. So kind of a funny time to be talking about like our sex life and intimacy. But this is how life goes sometimes, right?
Well, it kind of paints the picture, right? Because look, we want to give you more of a personal update. We've had some really big sex intimacy episodes. We're in a Spice Up Your Sex Life series. We even have a intimacy workshop coming at the end of this week, which I know you'll bring up. But we really looked at all of these things when we became parents, because for all of you parents out there, it became just as obvious to us. Wow, there's like a lot more on our plate. Like more of our time is filled with things, i.e. to help Sky continue to live and thrive. And so, yes, we have sort of less time. And I could see where being tired from sleep's changing or just the amount of activity that you would have less energy. So we've been feeling that. And then so we just didn't let that go that way. We sought out, okay, how are we going to keep our intimate and sex life operating at a very satisfactory high level, even though life and the circumstances don't necessarily seem to be pulling for it.
Yeah. And before we kind of get into some specific personal points we want to share with you, I think it's important, when we talk to couples, we can see that the intimate life and sex life, because those can be distinct things, right? Like your sex life is the often act of being physically intimate in the bedroom, but intimacy is even more emotional. It is really about your energetic connection to each other, your emotional connection, that, vulnerability with each other. But what we see with couples oftentimes is that they're lacking in both areas. And that's why both are so important, for you to be both emotionally intimate with each other and focusing on pleasurable sex and intimacy. Because it does manifest in terms of feeling just a slump. Like Aaron and I, we can feel a difference. Like if we haven't, had a great intimate experience and a sexual experience in a while, we kind of just feel off, right? But the first point we'll get into personally is it's never been about frequency for us. So we aren't those people that, for us, we have to be intimate X number of times per week, like 3 times or every day. You heard Dr. Sabrina Solt on her episode say they're sexually intimate almost every day. That's not honestly the case for us, nor is that even what we crave. Some of you do, and that's what everyone's different. So it's never been about frequency for us. What it has become more about as we've become parents too, is actually improving the experience more and more, like having it become even more pleasurable, really learning about our bodies. And especially I think, you heard like Ashley on her episode talk about how for women, there's a lot we don't know about our bodies. So it's been a lot of us exploring my body and learning about what feels good and trying new things. And that's why we went to her workshop in Hawaii. And so that's, I think, something I'd invite you into, as well as maybe you've been like, well, we need to just be more intimate more frequently. Again, if you're parents, maybe that's possible, maybe not. Sabrina Solt did say, like, you just get creative, but maybe your attention can shift to increasing the pleasure of each experience that you have together.
Yeah, and linking back to what Ashley was talking about, when the satisfaction is that high, you then make sure you find the time. Like you want to find the time, right?
Right.
So those two play hand in hand. So we think focusing on it being more pleasurable, whatever that means for you. And to be honest, for me, it's been more about trying new things. It just not having it be the same routine. Hence why I was more than open to do the workshop in Hawaii and just explore and find new things and have the experience be more unknown and new and different. Not like every single time, but there's really, we go in there and it's not that it's going to be the same.
Yes.
And so maybe I suggest for those listening, try going for increase in satisfaction. And even if you are someone that is satisfied with frequency, look at it from a different perspective, and then watch how the increase in your satisfaction then drives you to want to do it more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think that's such a better approach than just going for frequency, especially if one of you is like thinking like, wow, this is really, it's the same, not doing anything new. I mean, we're going to go into this more already, but like then power dynamics, I wanted to talk about your energy with each other throughout the day.
Yes.
For us, especially as parents, it has brought us closer, emotionally intimate. I would say month 2 was the hardest for us. Mm-hmm. But with all the tools that we teach, we really dove in there. And I think out of that, we created we're more connected. We're more trusting. We're more compassionate. Mm-hmm. We have more ease and grace with one another. We're more playful. And that energy shows up then in the bedroom or the living room or the car, wherever the intimate space gets set up. And that's really important too, because parents are not, whatever your energy is in your like daily interactions, and we've been talking to a lot of couples this week too, when your love counts are low, then it starts to feel as if being intimate is this chore or this obligation, or if you felt like your voice hasn't been heard and you're not being listened to by your partner, then you got to go into the intimacy space. I mean, you're bringing the energy in there, so you're less likely to bring playfulness, to bring exploration, and it's probably going to be more mundane.
Yeah, I'm really glad you used that word. I was going to actually bring up the energy, because we focus on, yes, increasing the pleasure and the satisfaction of the experience, but also, to your point, we focus on when we leave the sexual experience with each other, our energy is uplifted. Like, we actually want our energy to shift. And that's, been huge for us. So I think that's huge. Going to the second personal point we wanted to bring up is, I am doing some things for my body and healing. You talked about, or you heard about Dr. Sabrina Solt talking about how our hormones can impact our desire and our pleasure, and just so much in terms of like how your body is operating. And for me, I'm actually learning more about the pelvic floor. And ladies out there, if you haven't learned about this, you must start researching pelvic floor, because for many of us who have delivered babies vaginally, there's stuff that happens, right? And I am actually going to a healing session today, because it's both an emotional healing and a physical healing. And so that's actually something I'm doing, yes, for myself to feel good, but also because I know it will pay dividends in our intimate experience as well. And our body is playing a part in this. Again, you can't just be like, okay, I'll just be more intimate. What if you're experiencing pain down there? What if it actually isn't feeling good for a reason? And our pelvic floor, again, like research this, is actually a neglected area of our body, and really it plays into a lot of different aspects of our life. And so I'm going to do that healing session today. And I just encourage every lady out there to learn about the pelvic floor.
And the episode with Sabrina was so good, we couldn't just let that go by without us actually looking for ourselves. So, okay, hormones. Well, you don't want to just keep on going for frequency once again if there is something to look at in your hormones too. One of the big takeaways, and we'll just be honest, we're trying out a whole new nutrition plan. Because could our bodies feel more, what's the term for you actually? Vibrant. I'm trying not to get too detailed, but for me, okay, I grew up in the Midwest, and yeah, it's like meat and potatoes, but it is a lot of carbs too. Breads and sandwiches and the potatoes, which I'm learning like nightshades aren't probably that great. Peanut butter, like I've eaten so much peanut butter in my life. So all of the different nuts and the oils that are on there, the seed oils. So, I'm in good shape. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
But I still walk around most of the days like my gut could definitely be feeling better. And by be feeling better, I kind of walk around, this is going to sound weird, feeling like it's a little bit kind of bloated. And I just, me and my nutrition, I like to eat the same thing. It's been fine for years. I'm in good shape, but I'm like, that could probably be better.
Yeah.
So after Sabrina, we're actually doing all meat and fruit.
Well, that's going to sound weird to people, okay?
Okay.
You're eating meat and fruit. I'm eating more than that, okay? I'm eating goat milk, cheese. I mean, it's not going to make sense on here because that'd
Well,
be
it's
a
the
whole other
carnivore
topic.
diet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an animal-based diet,
Yeah.
not specifically carnivore. And look, we have tried many this isn't meant to be a nutrition conversation,
Yeah.
but we've done vegan, we have done plant-based, and we're just trying something because we realized our bodies could feel better. And it isn't about changing the shape of our bodies. We both do feel great about how we look. It's more so about how we feel. And the reason we're saying this in an episode about intimacy is, again, your body is playing into it. If you're really tired and you are not feeling confident and you also feel sluggish and you just don't, your body doesn't feel sexy, right? Like that's going to contribute to the intimate space as well.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next point here because people really get stuck with the nutrition. But there were so many great things from Sabrina. What I'm taking away, there are definitely some things you probably shouldn't eat, and there are like defenses that different, even plants put out there for their own well-being. So there was a lot of things that I start to now realize like our body doesn't do well with. At the end of the day, I feel like there isn't one set plan for anyone.
Right.
But you should explore what type of nutrition is going to put your body in the best state.
Yes.
For how you feel, for how you look. And then, yes, all that contributes to how you're going to have that energy or desire for each other in an intimate space.
Yeah, I love that. So that's just a little nutrition update there
It's been
for
really,
you.
really interesting for me.
Going to the next personal point regarding how our intimate and sex life has actually improved is it's that we're bringing intention to this area. You've heard us say on other episodes that if you want anything to change, your finances, your communication, anything, it actually has to start with the fact that you're even bringing intention and focus to that area. It's not going to just magically improve. And so that's why we attended the workshop in Hawaii. That's why I'm reading and listening to things regarding intimacy. I'm actually putting my thoughts more towards it and my focus, and that's where you can actually bring more exploration to it. And so I think that's a huge invitation for you is if this is an area where you want more pleasure, well, are you guys talking about it? Are you reading about it? Are you learning? Are you exploring an intimacy workshop?
Are you looking for things while you're at stores?
Oh, yes. Okay, so what happened?
Well, you say what happened because then I'll follow it up with, I have an interesting experience about it.
Okay, yeah. So we were shopping. It was a few weeks ago now. And we went to this cute little shop that had all these little knickknacks and flowers and candles. And we're just trying to get out of the house, basically bringing Sky. And there were some little, intimacy toys that were compelling to me. And I was like, we haven't tried anything like this. And so I pointed them out to him and I was like, what do you think? Like, should we try this out? And what did you say?
I said, yeah, we should. My question to you, because we didn't specifically talk about this, what did you think I would say when you first asked, when you pointed it out?
I actually feel because we have such an opening here, there's not tension in the area of intimacy. Like for us, it is very playful, open, transparent. Like I didn't have any fear that you would have ego about it or kind of be like, what? Like, I should just be able to please you like how I am,
It's funny how the voice went too.
That's the macho man. You shouldn't need any additional things.
Is there a voice in my head that sounds like that?
No, that's like the macho man out there who just isn't able to be humble and be open.
You know what? And for me, it was like that. I was open and I was thinking about this really honestly within the first few seconds of it happening. So if you can imagine this store is in this kind of family area. There's like a little cafe. There's like a kids clothing store. And this place, like you said, just has flowers. The one wall has gift cards. It literally down the wall, it's gift cards. It was like spices, puzzle, and mixed in between the two were like
these intimate toys.
Two intimacy toys. And they were pretty small too, right? So they was like kind of disguised. At first, I was thinking in my head, like, I didn't expect to see this in this like the last place. And then when you asked, though, I was just completely on board. And I thought about that later, similar to what you're saying. I'm like, wow, I just had nothing about it. it was you brought it up, and I could feel that you were like curious, and I was curious to play around and have you feel something different or experience something different. And so I was just, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that. And again, that's the energy that we have, and you can have that. Like, sex and intimacy shouldn't be this like uptight topic that's like, don't show me a toy. Like, again, like it should be an opening. It should be spaciousness.
I mean, I get it's hard because in this area, sex and intimacy, it does feel like, I guess for whatever reason, maybe Ashley has a better conversation around this, but maybe society, maybe how most of us men kind of grew up as boys hearing about sex, and it's made out to be this thing that only if you're like super something awesome, you're like I don't know, the best out there in high school, right? Or college. It's like, oh yeah, I'm having sex. You're like, okay. It's like, I'm not, so I guess I'm a loser.
Oh.
Type of thing. That was supposed to be in general, but it actually was me. I don't know if I've shared too much of my story, but I guess I might as well share it here now. I didn't have sex until we were married.
Our wedding day, you guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that did initially come from how the religion that I was in, the church that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to be completely honest, that wasn't the sole reason.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, then first of all, there was this thought in my mind like, oh, I'm going to go to hell if I have sex before I'm married. I went to a Christian school from like K through 12, but does that mean that no one was having sex? No, most of my friends were. So it started to become a thing I was embarrassed about, and I didn't talk to anyone about. I don't even think my best friends knew through high school. Probably they did know because I never talked about it, talked about anything, but no one asked. So even through college, same thing. I didn't really talk about it, even though people were talking about their conquests and sharing about the things that they were doing with their girlfriends and everything. And so, yes, it was a place that I was very embarrassed by. And even when we started dating, I didn't tell you for a while. And I actually drove by the restaurant the other day that we sat at, and I told you, just to be completely honest, going on a tangent here, I knew I needed to tell you, and I literally thought that was going to be the end of the relationship. I thought I'm going to tell her today, and the relationship's going to be over.
Oh, and I know you shared that with me before, but it still gets me every time you say it. And I mean, yeah, it's been such an interesting part of our journey, but I don't know, I accepted that about you. I thought that was so interesting, and that's been a big theme for our relationship, is just acceptance.
Yeah, so that was a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of that was there is a lot that gets tied up, I believe, for men in pleasing our partner.
Like a pride or
a pride. I mean, yeah, we could use the term ego, but there's a certain value of a human being.
Yes.
That seems to come with the idea that I'm really good at sex and I can please any partner that I'm with.
Well, and I know this might be an interesting, we never really use this word on our podcast, but where a lot of men get their view of sex and intimacy is porn. And we don't have to go into this like in a long tangent, but that is not really realistic to the average couple who has kids. And so I think that's where men get this idea of pleasure, right? Like, oh, that's what it takes to please a woman, when, Ashley debunked a lot of that. That really isn't what pleases most women. And going back to, again, this intention and exploration, you were so open to those little toys I invited us into. When we were invited into the intimacy workshop in Hawaii, we were a yes, even though our baby was like 7 weeks old or something like that, like 8 weeks old. And I could have said, no, now's not the time, later. But again, this is an important area of our relationship. And it took something, I was even breastfeeding during the workshop a bit, right?
Yeah.
And so if that is something you're wanting to bring more attention to, this is actually the last week that you can take advantage of the bonus that we're offering, where you can actually attend the online intimacy workshop that Ashley is leading for all of our clients and everyone who purchases the communication mastery bundle. So you can actually get a discounted price for our communication course And for no extra cost, attend the intimacy workshop, which is this Sunday, May 29th. Now, worst case, you can't attend it live. If you still purchase the bundle, then you can watch the recording. But that's an incredible way to gain these tools and really experience the breakthrough that we had at that workshop, because it was life-changing for us. But it starts with that action.
Well, and a couple of things that we brought into our intimate life, you could probably talk more about the time, but it is really interesting. And we shared a little bit, I think, on the very first episode of this series. But yeah, we were doing the first, I won't give everything away, but there's just a being present with, eye gazing with the partner, so that you actually create the energy of connection and being with each other before you're actually physically intimate. And then you can incorporate some breath, which we do. But when we were in the workshop, I mean, you were like literally breastfeeding Sky, and I got upset in a way because I was trying to lead the breath and you weren't following me in like how the directions were supposed to play out. And
because the pace you were going,
that triggered you, and you're like, are you kidding me, right? Because like I'm breastfeeding your baby, I'm holding Sky this whole trip in Hawaii. I mean, I was helping, but in that moment, it's how it came out. And so I bring that up because in that space, you really do find out what your quote unquote power dynamic is. So when we had mentioned power dynamic, maybe a lot of you didn't know what that meant. And
it's going to be explained on the workshop too, by the way.
And I'm just sharing from our personal experience. When you really look at, well, what is the dynamic or the belief or the energy or even tension that comes up in my body during certain things when we are intimate together, you really want to look at that, because I realized there's even a sense of it's going to go the way that I wanted this to go. And sometimes it's like, let's say we were just having our normal day and then I invited you, meaning I initiated with you. I noticed like subconsciously, I had it like, well, since I initiated and I was desiring this, then I'm going to kind of guide how our sexual interaction goes. And if that didn't go that way, then you start to see the power dynamic. You start to see, well, it becomes more of a get energy rather than a give energy. And when that happens, your partner's less likely to be satisfied. If it's all about me, which, I mean, I didn't necessarily set out to do that. That's the underlying dynamic of control, or I initiated this, so it's going to go the way I want to. It's really difficult to have your partner feel really satisfied or have the experience they want to have when you're having a total, this is about me, I'm going to get my pleasure energy.
Yeah, no, and that's just one of the experiences we had. I mean, the whole workshop was, I mean, just so enlightening. It's hard to even explain it. That's why you have to just trust us, take our word for it, and attend it. By the way, I realized that I didn't mention the link to sign up for that. It's onlinecouplesworkshops.com/communication bundle. And once you sign up on there, then you're going to get an email that gives you the invitation for the intimacy workshop, either attending live or the recording. So I forgot to mention the link. Going to the next point about our intimate and sex life improving. Again, we've mentioned before that many people, parents, even just couples in general, struggle with the time. But going back to what Ashley said, if it's truly pleasurable and brings you closer, you will make time for it. And so that does look like getting more creative as parents, right? Sabrina Salt mentioned like they will be intimate for a few minutes during a nap. For us, sometimes we sneak it in while the nanny's here, right? And in between work meetings or before we start work meetings. And so it doesn't mean that you're going to magically find an hour or two to be intimate. It's going to look like getting creative. Maybe it's before you get out of bed in the morning, before you go wake up your kids. Maybe you can find a lunch break. I mean, it's going to take something probably, but it's important. Maybe you're hiring a sitter on the weekend. What can you do to remove the excuses about time and find it? And it doesn't have to be an hour. Maybe it is just a few minutes with each other. But if you go in with the intention of it being really enjoyable, you can accomplish a lot in just a few minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I didn't complete what I was saying on my whole energy point.
Okay.
And that was honestly just that I realized that there was this underlying, I never really thought about a get versus give energy. And so when I realized that, this is going to be interesting for the listeners, even if I felt like I was making the space about you when we were intimate, and most males are going to get this, I think, when there's a certain level of energy happening in my body,
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of hijacks my thoughts and my focus to really be about the experience I'm about to have. And I just realized that could be a limiting factor to it being more satisfying for you. And so when I realized that there are these subtle energy dynamics that come from certain thoughts or beliefs or just the way that you focus, I'm not intentionally a selfish person, but when that energy is flowing, I just focus on myself. And I didn't see that before. So now, why I was even more open to you saying, hey, I see that little intimacy toy over there. Why don't we try that out? I did not make it about me, which I'm glad, because like I'm saying, the energy does make it about you. And it wasn't personal. It didn't make me feel like I was at all inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
It was, wow, my wife is asking for an experience and wants to be trying new things out. And, even newness, I think, is a certain level of satisfaction. Not to say that something is less satisfying. It's just, I think new and different is a different level of experience. And I think I was in a more, how could I give energy with you? And because that's where I was when you shared that, I was open to it.
I love that.
So with all that said, I think the last point really is about, you have the time factor, you have the energy factor, you have the tired factor. So you don't really feel like it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that can be the other excuse is, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So much work, so much kid activities, then maybe you haven't fully resolved a conflict, so you have some of that argument hangover energy. So all that combined, it's like, no, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah, this has been something for us in our relationship. Our philosophy has never been about waiting to feel like it, because with all the pressures, it's not often, to be honest, that we're like ravenous towards each other and like, come over here, right? Like we do feel that draw to each other and desire, but there are times that what we do is we invite each other into the space. So we're fun and flirty, and we might be in the kitchen and, Sky's going down for a nap, and we'll just be like, hey, want to go in the bedroom? And we'll just kind of be a little flirty. And even if the other person isn't like, oh yeah, I'm just ready to go, right? Well, we most often say yes to the other person.
Well, I was thinking about this. I want to get clear. Because I saw you wrote this in here. I believe only 1 or 2 times in our entire relationship, I think, has one of us said, I'm just really not feeling it.
Yeah, and I think that it's because we weren't truly energetically available or like even wanting to become that. So you're right. It's like very few. I think you're right. It's like less than 3. And so 1 or 2.
I said 1 or 2. I said less than 3.
Because it's like an approximate number.
Okay, you're right.
But that's our philosophy. Now, would we ever have a conflict and it's unresolved and the other person is like trying to be intimate and we think we have to be? No, because that's our whole thing. And that's why we wrote a whole book on conflict repair, because we're not saying, leave stuff undone, unresolved, tension, resentment, and then, go be intimate even if you don't feel like it. Yeah. No, like we're about repair, clean things up, remove the energetic and emotional clutter between you guys. And then just in our day-to-day life, we might not have the best energy because it wasn't the best sleep night, or we're stressed, with business things or whatever it is, that kind of not feeling like it. Not, oh, I'm still pissed at you, but you want me to be intimate. kind
yeah,
of thing?
I feel like that's an acknowledgement. We don't just write books and do podcasts about these topics and then not do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a testimony, right? It's because we really do clean things out. We clear things out. The term in personal development is things are complete. We don't have conversations that are incomplete or that have residual built up emotion or hurt or any of that. We don't have long argument hangovers. So I guess I hadn't thought of this before, but I would say that probably plays a big part into our availability to each other. When we do initiate, we're always open. We're always going to be a yes, even though, like you said, could be a little bit more tired. I could have ate a bunch of gluten-free donuts and my gut isn't feeling as good as it is now. But all of that can just really be set aside because we know when we get into the space, we create the wanting to be intimate. We don't have to feel it, then do it. We do it, and then we feel it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We invite each other into the space, and then what we do in those first few minutes, it starts to create the energy. And I think that's the backwards way that a lot of people look at intimacy is, oh, let's both feel like really amped up for it, then go be intimate. We do it the reverse. Let's go be in the intimate space and create that desire. And so that's what works for us. And going back to the repair and having things be complete, shameless plug, that's a reason to do the communication mastery course too, because we teach all that in there, both great communication, repair. So just another reason that we would invite you to take advantage of that bundle and the discount that we're offering right now for the communication mastery. So go to that link. We'll make sure it's in the show notes. And then you get the intimacy workshop for free, you guys. But it's the last week to take advantage of that bonus. Aaron, any final remarks you want to make about this?
No, I don't think so. It is, I don't know, quite the accomplishment, I would say, to have a child now 5 months in to actually say our intimacy has improved, I think is pretty unique.
Yes, I would agree so. And that's possible for you guys. And so we hope that you have enjoyed the Spice Up Your Sex Life series. Make sure you listen or re-listen to Ashley's episode and Dr. Sabrina Solt's, just so many nuggets in there. And then we hope that what we shared gives you some new perspective and maybe some new ideas. We are always here for you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Make sure you go to onlinecouplesworkshops.com/communication bundle, and that link is in the show notes to get the discounted price for that and the intimacy workshop for free, whether you can attend live or the recording. And by the way, nothing uncomfortable is going to be asked of you to do on the workshop, just so you know, okay? But we love you all, and we will talk to you on the next episode.